I can't believe you, Sarah said, her laugh sharp and cruel, echoing in the small living room. You're almost 30, and you still can't hold down a job? Do you know how pathetic that sounds? Her friend snickered, sipping wine on the couch. I stood there, hands buried in my pockets, wishing the ground would swallow me whole. Sarah, I muttered, voice low. You don't have to do this in front of everyone. Please, she said, tilting her glass toward me. What do you expect me to lie? To pretend you're not a failure? She leaned closer, her perfume filling my lungs. They should know what I've been putting up with. Laughter bubbled around the room again, stabbing into my pride. My throat tightened. I wanted to shout, to fight back, but the words stuck like lead. Daniel, my only friend in that room, gave me a small shake of his head as if to warn me not to make it worse. But worse was already here. Sarah, I said again, stronger this time. Enough. She raised her brows. Enough. Don't act tough now. You've been living off scraps, begging for interviews that never call back. Tell me, what future do you even have? Her words burned, but I forced my lips into a thin smile. You'll see, I whispered. What was that? She asked, smirking. You'll see, I repeated, louder. My chest heaving with anger I barely contained. Her friends laughed again, the sound like nails scratching glass. One of them muttered, Dreamer. I looked around that room, at faces glowing with amusement. At Sarah standing tall with her arms crossed, reveling in my humiliation. My fists clenched so tightly my nails cut into my palms. I don't need this, said finally, turning toward the door. Oh, here we go, Sarah mocked. The dramatic exit. Go ahead. Run away like always. That's what you're good at, isn't it? I stopped at the doorway and glanced back, meeting her eyes one last time. You'll regret this, I said, my voice shaking, not from weakness but from something rising deep inside me. Regret? She laughed, tossing her hair. The only thing I regret is wasting my time. That was it. I opened the door, stepped into the cool night air, and let it close behind me. Their laughter echoed even through the walls. Outside, the street was quiet, only the dim hum of a streetlight above. My chest burned. I leaned against the wall, breathing hard, anger and shame fighting inside me. Daniel followed me out after a moment. Hey, he said softly, don't listen to them. I can't unhear it, I muttered, staring at the cracked pavement. She's cruel, man. Always has been. You just didn't want to see it. I looked at him, eyes heavy. She was supposed to be on my side. I know, Daniel said, but you can't let this destroy you. It's one night. One humiliation. It doesn't define you. Feels like it does, I whispered. Like she ripped away the last piece of dignity I had, put a hand on my shoulder. Then take it back. Not with words, not with anger. Do it with action. I nodded slowly, the weight of his words pressing into me. After he left, I wandered the streets alone. The neon lights of a bar glowed faintly, laughter spilling out as doors swung open. I walked past, my reflection flickering in shop windows' tired eyes, unshaven face, wrinkled shirt. I looked every bit the failure she had painted me as. I hated it. Hours later, I returned to my apartment. The room was small, walls yellowed, dishes stacked in the sink. I sat on the edge of my bed, head in my hands, her laughter replaying over and over in my skull. You're pathetic. Failure. No future. Each word slammed into me until I could barely breathe. But beneath the suffocating shame, something else stirred. A spark. Quiet. Dangerous. I stood, pacing the room. My hands trembled. But it wasn't weakness anymore. It was the beginning of resolve. She see. I whispered to myself. They'll all see. I opened my notebook, the one I had abandoned weeks ago when rejection after rejection had beaten me down. I flipped through empty pages, grabbed a pen, scrawled 3 words at the top of a new sheet. Never again laughed. My eyes burned, but I kept writing. Plans, ideas, fragments of thoughts I barely understood. Anything to silence her voice in my head. The night dragged on, but I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The shame was still there, but now it was fuel by dawn. The city outside was waking up, sunlight creeping through the blinds. I stared at the page in front of me, my scrawl messy but alive. I whispered into the empty room, I will never let her laugh at me again. And for the first time in months, I believed myself. Don't drown in it, Daniel said, sliding a mug of cheap coffee across my desk. Bitterness won't build anything. I'm not bitter, I muttered, eyes fixed on the half-finished proposal on my laptop. He smirked. You're chewing your lip so hard it looks like you're trying to bite the anger out of yourself. Admit it, Sarah's words still sting. I exhaled sharply. Of course they sting. She humiliated me in front of everyone. Then use it, he said firmly. Fuel, not poison. You start small, you build piece by piece. That's how you win. I looked at him, skeptical. Small? Like what? Who's going to hire me? Freelance projects. Skills you can learn online. Work no one else wants. You've got time, you've got brains, and you've got a hell of a reason to keep going. His conviction cracked something inside me. I sat back, rubbing my eyes. What if I fail again? Then fail, he shrugged. Fail until you can't anymore. But don't sit in the ashes waiting for pity. That's what she expects. His words cut deep because they were true. I closed the laptop slowly. All right, I said. I'll try. No, he corrected. You'll do. The days blurred after that. Nights stretched into mornings, my desk littered with empty coffee cups and notebooks filled with scratched-out ideas. Rejection emails stacked in my inbox like insults. Each one whispered, "You're not good enough." And every time I read one, heard Sarah's laugh. "You're pathetic." I clenched my fists at the memory. Not anymore, I whispered into the dim room, reopening the laptop. Forcing my eyes to keep moving, Daniel called one evening. "How's progress?" "Terrible," I said flatly. 3 proposals ignored, 2 rejected, 1 told me I didn't have the experience. He chuckled. "That's 6 steps further than you were last week." 6 steps into failure, I muttered. "Or 6 steps into resilience," he countered. "Keep swinging. Every no is just a brick. Stack them until you've built a wall she can't break through." I rubbed my temples. Easy for you to say. It's hard for you to do. Which is exactly why you have to. I didn't answer right away, but his voice stayed in my head long after the call ended. One night, past midnight, I slammed my laptop shut. Why bother? I groaned. Nobody's going to take me seriously. In the silence, I caught my reflection in the dark screen-tired eyes, but something sharper underneath. I whispered to it, "She wants me broken." I won't give her that. Reopened the laptop. My fingers shook, but I kept typing. 2 weeks later, Daniel dropped by with greasy takeout. "Eat. You look like hell." "I don't have time," I said, shoving papers aside. He glanced at the screen. "Another proposal?" "Yeah. This one's different. I'm actually proud of it." "Then send it," he said. I hesitated, finger hovering over the mouse. My chest tightened, fear clawing at me. Daniel sighed. "Say it out loud." "What?" "Say, I'm not afraid to fail." I stared at him, jaw clenched. "That's stupid." "Say it." I took a shaky breath. "I'm not afraid to fail." Again, "Not afraid to fail," I repeated louder. Daniel grinned. "Now hit send." The email whooshed away. My stomach twisted, but a strange relief followed. Daniel clapped me on the back. "See? Progress." I let out a laugh. Tired, but real. Progress. The following days were no easier. More silence, more rejections. But every time I felt myself sinking, I remembered Daniel's voice, steady and insistent. Fuel, not poison. So I kept working. Late nights, cold coffee, the hum of my old laptop, it all became ritual. With each failure, the quiet rage inside me grew, shaping into determination. Every cruel word Sarah had thrown at me replayed in my mind. But instead of breaking me, they pushed me forward. One night, staring at the glowing screen, I whispered to the empty room, "I'll build something you can't laugh at." The silence answered. Heavy but certain. And for the first time, I felt like maybe Daniel was right. Maybe the pieces were starting to fit. Daniel called me one morning, his tone electric. Check your email right now. I rubbed sleep from my eyes. Why? Another rejection. Not this time, he said. Just open it. I clicked the message, my heart hammering. A tech startup, young, hungry, ambitious, wanted to meet. This can't be real. It's real, Daniel said. They saw your portfolio. They want you in. I stared at the screen. Why me? Because you didn't stop trying, he replied simply. Now get dressed, shave, and don't you dare screw this up. The office was small, buzzing with energy. Posters lined the walls, whiteboards filled with chaotic scribbles. The founder, Mark, shook my hand firmly. We like people who work hard. You've been persistent. That matters more than polish. I won't let you down, I said quickly, though my voice cracked. He grinned. Good. Show us what you can do. That first week I drowned in code, design, and late-night brainstorming sessions. The team pushed me hard, but I found myself keeping up. Daniel called one night. So, how's the new life? Insane, I admitted. But I feel alive. Every problem is like a fire I get to put out. He laughed. Told you? Keep proving yourself, and they'll see you're more than some guy Sarah used to mock. His mention of her made me pause. Yeah, I muttered. More than that? At the end of the month, Mark clapped my shoulder. You're good. Damn good. Ever thought about leading a team? I blinked. Me, lead. Why not? You've got fire in you. People notice. That night, alone in my apartment, I poured myself cheap whiskey and whispered she'd choke if she saw this. Success was addictive. Every late-night win, every solved bug, every deal closed, it fed something deep inside me. But whenever exhaustion hit, I'd hear Sarah's laughter echo in my skull. You'll never make it. I'd slam my fist on the desk. Watch me. One evening, Daniel met me at a bar. You look like hell, he said, raising his glass. Feels like heaven, I countered. Promotion already? Almost. Mark hinted at it. Daniel smirked. You know what this is, right? It's proof. You turned her poison into power. I took a long sip. Then why do I still feel like I'm chasing her ghost? He leaned in. Because revenge is fuel. But it can't be your finish line. I didn't answer. My chest burned too much to admit he was right. A week later, gossip reached me through an old acquaintance. Sarah was dating some wealthy businessman. Parading through restaurants and parties, she's living well. The acquaintance said casually. Good for her, I replied, forcing my voice steady. But inside, the fire roared. That night, I stared at the city lights from my window, muttering, You traded me for money. Fine, I'll build more than he could ever buy. At work, challenges kept coming. Bigger clients, tougher negotiations. I pushed myself harder, sometimes sleeping under my desk. The team noticed. Do you ever rest? One of them asked. Rest is for the safe, I replied. I'm not safe yet. Daniel checked in again. You're burning at both ends. Careful. Can't stop now, I told him. Every step up feels like sticking another dagger into her memory. He sighed. And when she's forgotten, what then? I didn't know. I didn't want to think about it. Weeks turned into months. Mark announced a company expansion, and I was promoted. Applause filled the room. You earned this, Mark said. I smiled, but deep down I whispered to myself, Sarah, are you watching? That night, Daniel and I sat on my balcony. You've changed, he said. How so? You stand taller. You sound sharper. But your eyes, he paused. They still flicker when I mention her. I leaned back, staring at the skyline. Her betrayal fuels me, Daniel. Every laugh, every insult, it forged this fire. Without it, maybe I'd still be nothing. He sipped his drink. Or maybe you'd be free. Think about it. I didn't answer. My chest tightened with something between pride and pain. Success felt strange, like wearing a new suit that didn't quite fit. I climbed, I fought, I thrived, and through it all. Sarah's ghost walked behind me, her laughter echoing, her betrayal burning but also pushing me further than I thought possible. For now, I welcomed the fire, because without it, I feared I might stop climbing. The ballroom glimmered with crystal lights and soft music. I adjusted my tie, blending in with the polished crowd, until a voice froze me. "Wait, is that you?" I turned. Sarah stood near the bar, her glass halfway to her lips. For a split second, her mask cracked. Her eyes widened, scanning my tailored suit, my posture, the calm I had cultivated. "Sarah," I said evenly. She forced a laugh. "Wow, look at you. You've changed." I sipped my drink. "Time does that." She tilted her head. "Not just time. You look successful. What are you doing these days?" "Building," I replied. "Building?" She leaned closer, pretending interest. "That sounds exciting. You must tell me more." I caught the sweetness in her tone, too polished to be real. My chest tightened, but I didn't flinch. Business, startups, deals, the usual grind. Her smile wavered. "You always had potential, you know." I said that back then. "No, you laughed back then." She froze, then chuckled awkwardly. "Oh, come on, don't be so harsh." I was joking. "You know me?" "Yeah," I said softly. "I do," she shifted, swirling her drink. "Anyway, it's so good to see you. I've been meaning to reach out, but life's been complicated." I said. Her eyes flickered. "You heard what?" "Enough." For a moment, silence stretched between us. I saw the faint lines at the corners of her eyes, the forced brightness in her smile. She wasn't the invincible Sarah I remembered. "You look different," she said, breaking the quiet. "I am different." She laughed lightly, but it rang hollow. "Well, I always knew you'd find your footing." "No," I corrected, leaning closer. "You didn't." Her lips parted, then pressed shut. She stared at me, searching for the boy she once ridiculed. But I wasn't there anymore. Daniel appeared at my side, resting a hand on my shoulder. "Everything all right here?" Sarah brightened too quickly. "Of course. We were just catching up." Daniel gave her a look, then smirked at me. "Don't let the past spoil your evening." I nodded. "I won't." Sarah's smile faltered. "The past doesn't define us, right?" I held her eyes. "No, but it shapes us." She shifted uncomfortably, then laughed again, the sound brittle. "You've gotten so serious. Or maybe just clear," I said. She touched my arm lightly. "I hope there's no hard feelings." We were young, reckless. I pulled back. "You humiliated me, Sarah." "Not once. Not twice. Constantly, you knew what you were doing." Her voice dropped, defensive. "I didn't mean it like that." "Yes, you did." "So what now? You hate me forever?" I shook my head. "Hate? No, that would give you too much space in my life." Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. "Then what do you feel?" I paused, letting the silence hang. "Nothing." Her face tightened, though she tried to mask it with another smile. "Nothing? Really?" "Yes," I said. "Because the best revenge isn't anger. It's indifference." For a moment, the mask slipped completely. Her eyes hardened, then softened, then darted away. "You've changed," she whispered. I adjusted my cufflinks. That's what survival does. The music swelled around us, people laughing and dancing. Sarah stood still, her glass trembling slightly in her hand. I realized then that silence spoke louder than any insult I could throw. Daniel nudged me. "Come on, let's mingle." I nodded and turned, leaving Sarah standing in the glow of the chandeliers, her smile fading like a candle in wind as I walked away. My chest ached with a strange mix of victory and grief. I had kept my mask on, but her presence dug at wounds I thought healed. I whispered to myself, "Success is louder than revenge." And yet, in the quiet corners of my heart, her shadow still lingered. "Another meeting." "You're insane," Daniel muttered, dropping a pile of files on my desk. I rubbed my temples. "If I stop now, everything collapses. You know that? You've barely slept this week. Sleep doesn't sign deals. Daniel sighed. Neither does exhaustion. You're not invincible. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the city lights outside the window. Invincible. No. Relentless. Yes. He shook his head. Fine, but one day you'll burn out. Then I'll burn brighter than anyone before me. The startup roared forward like wildfire. Late nights turned into mornings, and mornings blurred into more deals. Every handshake, every signature pulled me closer to the top. Maya walked in one evening with coffee. You're still here? I smirked. Where else would I be? At home. Resting. Breathing. Breathing is overrated, I said, grabbing the cup. Thank you. You can't keep living like this, she said softly. I have to, I whispered. Why? She asked. For the company. For yourself? I hesitated. For both. She studied me. Or is it still about her? I froze. Don't you think I don't notice? Every time you push harder, it's like you're racing a ghost. I clenched my jaw. Maybe I am. Weeks later, I found myself across a polished table, staring at investors who once dismissed me. One man raised an eyebrow. You want control of the entire board? Yes, that's bold, I smiled. Bold wins. Another leaned forward. And if you fail, then you'll never hear from me again. But if I succeed, I let the silence hang, confidence sharp as a blade. You'll thank me. The room shifted. Papers rustled. They signed. When I walked out, Daniel slapped my back. You're insane, but brilliant. I told you, I said. Relentless. The company doubled, then tripled. I was at the center, pulling strings, shaping futures, yet in the quiet moments, loneliness coiled around me. One night, Daniel caught me staring at my office ceiling. You look like a king in a golden cage, he said. I chuckled. A cage with power. Power's not company, he replied. I didn't answer. Maya sat across from me during a late dinner. The restaurant buzzed with voices, but her gaze pinned me. You're CEO now. You've won. Won what? I asked. Everything you wanted. Not everything. She frowned. Then what's missing? I swirled the wine in my glass. Sometimes I wonder if I'm chasing success or just running from her shadow. Maya leaned forward. And what do you think? I forced a smile. That I don't care. She shook her head. You do? Or you wouldn't bring it up. Maybe you're right. But I can't stop. If I stop, she wins again. No, Maya said firmly. If you stop, you win. Because you'll finally be free. Her words stung, but I pushed them aside. The day the old guard stepped down, the boardroom was silent. You're sure about this? One of the directors asked. Yes, I said, steady and cold. I've carried this company through storms. I've earned this seat. They exchanged glances, then nodded. The vote was unanimous. I rose from my chair, the title settling on me like a crown. Then it's done. When the room emptied, Daniel whispered, You're CEO. I exhaled slowly. I am. And how do you feel? I looked out the window at the city sprawling beneath me. Powerful, but empty. Later that night, I stood alone in my penthouse, staring down at glowing streets. You wanted this, I murmured to myself. And you got it, yet my chest ached. Sarah's laughter still echoed in the corners of my mind, even now. When I had surpassed every limit, she mocked. Am I chasing success? I whispered. Or just running from her shadow? The silence gave no answer. Daniel leaned against the glass wall of my office, arms crossed. You heard what? I sipped my coffee slowly, letting the bitter warmth burn the edge off my thoughts. Whispers, people talk. Sarah's life isn't perfect anymore. He raised an eyebrow. Perfection was never hers to begin with. Why care? I don't care, I said quickly, though the corner of my mouth betrayed a faint smirk. But it's interesting to see the tables turn. Interesting. Daniel's tone was flat, but I caught the warning underneath. Don't let old emotions drag you in. You've worked too hard to let nostalgia or satisfaction cloud your judgment. I'm not nostalgic, I said. And I'm certainly not looking for satisfaction, at least. Not the kind you mean. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. Fine. But remember, curiosity can be dangerous. Later, Maya joined me in the lounge. You're thinking about her again, she said softly. I frowned. I'm not. I'm observing. That's different. You call observing stalking? She teased, but her eyes were serious. I shook my head. I call it knowing the truth. Her boyfriend cheated. Her finances are a mess. She's desperate for work. Maya's lips pressed together. And that makes you feel? I shrugged. A little pity. A little satisfaction. Mostly, it makes me aware of how far I've come. Don't mix that with wanting her back, she warned. I won't, I said. But my chest tightened at the thought of seeing her humbled. Whispers became more detailed. Did you hear? Someone at the company said in passing. Sarah's trying to get a job. Any job. She's living paycheck to paycheck. I smiled faintly. So it begins, I murmured under my breath. Daniel passed by, overhearing me. Careful. You're treading dangerous waters. I'm not getting wet, I said. I'm watching the storm from a safe distance. One evening, I ran into a mutual friend at a networking event. He lowered his voice. Sarah's having a rough time. Lost her place, almost her car. She's not the same. I nodded slowly, processing the information. Not the same? How so? Exhausted. Less spark. You know the one who laughed at you? That girl's gone. Now she's desperate. You might see her crawling back one day. The words hung in the air. I felt a strange tug, a mixture of pity and a deep, quiet satisfaction. Maybe. But if she comes back, she won't find the same man or the same heart, he said. I didn't reply. Daniel and I stayed late in the office, reviewing quarterly reports. I kept my mind half occupied with the whispers of Sarah's unraveling. You're not thinking of contacting her, are you? Daniel asked casually, but his eyes were sharp. Of course not, I said, though a flicker of the thought crossed my mind. I just like knowing she's not untouchable anymore. Daniel shook his head. That's a dangerous thrill. Don't let it control you. Focus on your empire, not ghosts. I am focused, I said, my voice firmer than I felt, still at night. When the city lights bled into my office through tall windows, I imagined her face once smug, now uncertain. The contrast made my chest tighten with something I refused to name. Maya's words echoed in my head. Don't let old emotions drag you in. I turned away from the window. I'm not dragged in, I whispered. I'm just curious about karma's timing. Daniel appeared at the doorway. Curiosity can kill the momentum you've built. Don't risk it. I won't, I said. But a small part of man, willing to admit it, hoped to see her humility firsthand. The moment she realizes she can't charm or cheat her way out anymore. Maya's voice came to mind again. The man you are now isn't the one she knew. I closed my eyes, letting the thought settle. Satisfaction mingled with restraint, and for the first time, I felt the cold power of patience. I wasn't chasing her. I was simply waiting, and that waiting tasted sweeter than any immediate revenge. By the time the office lights dimmed, Daniel left, and I remained at my desk. Fingers drumming on polished wood, I reviewed strategy notes, ignoring the thrum of anticipation in my chest. She'll come back, I whispered to no one. One day, and when she does, she find me unshaken. The silence of the empty office held my reflection, and I realized that observing, waiting, and controlling myself was more satisfying than any confrontation could ever be. I adjusted my tie and leaned back in the leather chair, waiting. The office was quiet, the hum of computers and the soft buzz of the air conditioner filling the background. I had rehearsed this moment hundreds of times in my mind, but nothing could fully prepare me for her face. Mr. Donovan? The receptionist's voice broke through my thoughts. Yes, I said, standing and straightening my jacket. Send her in. The door opened, and she stepped inside. Sarah. My heart twisted and then hardened in equal measure. She froze mid-step, a polite smile faltering as her eyes met mine. The color drained from her face, and for a fraction of a second, I saw the old arrogance slip, replaced by vulnerability. I'm here for the interview, she stammered, her usual confidence faltering. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Please, have a seat. She perched on the edge of the chair, hands clasped tightly in her lap. It's a privilege, she said, voice quivering slightly. Is it? I asked, keeping my tone even controlled. Or did you think this would be easy? She blinked, swallowing nervously. I prepared. I promise I can prepared. I interrupted. You mean you memorized a few buzzwords and charming lines? I leaned forward, resting my forearms on the desk. Sarah, you've always been good at pretending. But today, I hold the power. Her lips parted slightly, hesitation flickering in her gaze. I didn't expect, I didn't know you were. I'm the CEO, said simply, letting the words hang in the air. Her eyes widened, panic barely contained behind her carefully cultivated expression. Surprised? Her voice trailed off. I didn't what? I pressed, enjoying the subtle quake in her hands. Expect me to be successful? Confident? In control? She licked her lips nervously, trying to regain composure. I can explain. I've grown, changed. I'm serious about this position. I held up a hand, stopping her. Sarah, look at me. Really look at me? I'm not here to punish you, not exactly. But I am here to see if your words hold any weight against reality. Confidence is meaningless if it doesn't match competence. Her brow furrowed, uncertainty creeping into her expression. I've worked hard. I know the responsibilities. I can contribute. Can you? I leaned back, watching every flicker of her eyes, every small tremble in her voice. Or are you relying on charm and familiarity? Because those don't get promotions, and they certainly don't survive long in my company. She swallowed audibly. I understand. Please, just give me a chance. I can prove myself. I've learned from my mistakes. I smirked slightly. Learned from your mistakes. Funny, I remember your biggest mistake. Mocking me when I was down. Laughing at my failures. Do you remember that, Sarah? Her eyes flickered, shame mingling with defiance. I was what? I leaned forward, voice firm but calm. I want honesty, not excuses. She hesitated, then said quietly, I was wrong. I misjudged you. Interesting, I said, observing the subtle shifts in her posture. And now? You want to work here? Under me. Yes, she whispered, voice low but desperate. I can contribute. Do you see the irony? I asked softly, letting the weight of the moment settle between us. You came to me for help, for approval, yet all these years you underestimated me. And now you plead for a position, unaware that the man you laughed at is in control. Her lips trembled. I didn't expect this. I didn't know I see the fear, I said, watching every micro-expression, every tiny slip in her mask. I see the anxiety, the cracks in your confidence. For the first time, I hold the power. Please, she murmured, voice almost breaking. Please, what? I asked, keeping my tone steady. Do you want me to hire you, or are you just hoping I'll be lenient because of history? I can be serious. I've changed, she said quickly, trying to recover. But the panic undercut her words. I shook my head slightly, a quiet satisfaction coiling in my chest. Sarah, you see, the world doesn't reward charm after failure. It rewards resilience, skill, and respect are not borrowed. Her eyes widened, panic now bordering on desperation. I understand. Please, just a chance? I leaned back, silent, letting her words wash over me. The tension stretched for a long beat, each of us weighing the other. Finally, I spoke. You may leave. Your interview is over. Her face fell, disbelief mingling with frustration. Over, I repeated, voice calm, final. Sometimes, silence is the loudest answer. Sometimes watching someone fail without intervention is the strongest revenge. She rose slowly, avoiding my gaze, shoulders tense. I see. Yes, you do, I said softly. Now go. Learn humility the hard way. The door clicked shut behind her, and the room fell silent again. I exhaled slowly, the tension draining. I didn't smile, not fully. Satisfaction was tempered with the lingering ache of old memories. Daniel's voice came from the doorway. You handled that well. I didn't handle it, I murmured, staring out the window. I just waited. Waiting is stronger than acting sometimes, he said. I nodded, letting the thought settle. For the first time, I held power without needing to strike. And that, I realized, was far more intoxicating than revenge. I sank into the leather chair in my office, staring at the city lights through the glass wall. Sarah's image kept flashing in my mind, the fear, the desperation, the cracks in her mask. Part of me wanted to call her back, humiliate her further, reject her the way she rejected me all those years ago. Maya's voice echoed in my thoughts. Do you really want to be the man who destroys someone for your own satisfaction? Or the man who rises above? I muttered under my breath. Rising above feels weaker than revenge. Is it? Daniel's voice startled me. He leaned against the door frame, arms crossed. You've come a long way. Don't waste it on petty emotions. I can't stop thinking about her, I admitted, gripping the armrests. The way she laughed, the way she looked down on me, it's like fire inside me. I want her to feel the humiliation I felt. Daniel stepped closer, voice calm. And if she does, then what? Does it change your past, or just make you like her? I shook my head, conflicted. No, I don't want to be like her. But the temptation, my voice faltered. It's almost unbearable. Maya appeared beside me, leaning lightly on the desk. Sometimes mercy is harder than revenge, she said softly. You have the power now. That's rare. The question is, what kind of man do you want to be? I rubbed my temples, the weight pressing down. I've worked so hard, Daniel. I built this, rose above the mockery, clawed my way to where I am. And she just walks in, hoping to take advantage again. Part of me wants to snap. Daniel nodded knowingly. That's natural. Anger is natural. But strength is measured by restraint, not retaliation. I clenched my fists, thinking back to our interview. Sarah stumbled over her words, panic seeping through her usual poise. Watching her fail, it was satisfying. But was that enough? Could I let that be the end of it? Maya's hand on my shoulder startled me. Holding on to anger keeps you tied to the past, she said. Revenge will give you a momentary high, but it won't free you. Only letting go can. I leaned back, eyes closing. Letting go? It feels like losing control. Control isn't about punishment, Daniel said firmly. It's about deciding how you respond. You don't have to destroy her to assert your power. She's already lost what she tried to take from you. Your dignity. Your focus. That's gone, and you didn't let it destroy you. My chest tightened. I know she doesn't deserve my attention. But the thought of smiling, of dismissing her, it feels unnatural. I've always fought for control, for respect. Part of me wants to crush her ego, to make her regret everything. And part of you, Maya whispered, knows that true power is walking away without needing her to feel small. That's what separates you from her. I opened my eyes, staring at the skyline. My reflection in the glass seemed different, calmer, sharper. Walking away without a fight, it doesn't feel like closure. Closure comes from within, Daniel said. Not from seeing her fall or beg. You already won. You've built a life she can't touch. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. So, I let her go? Just like that? Yes, Maya said. Not because you're weak, but because you're stronger than she ever imagined. I closed my eyes again, breathing deeply. The fire inside me was still there, but it was quieter now, tempered by reason. The anger that had burned for years began to cool, replaced by a strange clarity. I can do that, I murmured. I can let go without losing myself. Daniel smiled faintly. Exactly. Your past doesn't define you. Your choices do. Maya nodded. And your choices now will define your future. I sat back, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. The temptation to humiliate, to punish, was still there, but it no longer had power over me. I realized something profound. Revenge might feel satisfying, but mercy felt like strength I hadn't known I possessed. Then it's decided, I said quietly, voice firm. I won't destroy her. I won't need to. My life, my success. That's the real answer. That's my revenge without lowering myself to her level. Daniel nodded approvingly. You're finally free of her shadow. Maya smiled softly. And now you can focus on what truly matters, yourself, your growth, and the people who respect you. I looked out at the city, lights flickering like tiny promises. Sarah would find her way or not. It no longer mattered to me. My eyes settled on the horizon, my heart lighter, my mind clearer. I had chosen mercy, and in that choice, I had claimed control over my life. For the first time in years, I felt untethered from the past. The conference room smelled of polished wood and fresh coffee, but all I could notice was Sarah's face as she walked in. Her heels clicked, and her smile tried to hide the tension I could sense from across the table. She didn't know I was the CEO. That little secret gave me more satisfaction than I expected. Good morning, she said brightly, forcing charm. I'm Sarah, thrilled to meet you all. I sat back, pretending to review a folder in front of me. I caught her eye for a split second, just enough to see her confidence flicker. Please, take a seat, I said, keeping my voice neutral. She nodded, lowering herself into the chair with an exaggerated grace. I've always been passionate about, she paused, glancing at me, and then launched into a long list of exaggerated accomplishments. One of the board members, Mr. Caldwell, frowned. Your last role was at a company that closed 6 months ago, and you claim you led a team of 50? Her smile faltered. Well, I did manage a team in a way that her voice wavered. I felt a rush of quiet satisfaction. Karma was doing its work. I didn't need to intervene. Her arrogance was unraveling her carefully constructed facade. Another board member, Ms. Lee asked, you mentioned you improved revenue by 40% in 1 quarter. Can you provide specifics? She hesitated. Yes, I implemented strategies that optimized everything. Her hands trembled slightly as she fumbled through a notebook. I resisted the urge to lean forward and enjoy every stutter. Instead, I stayed still, silent. The board's questions became sharper, more pointed. Her attempts to deflect sounded desperate. Can you give an example of a project you led that had measurable outcomes? Mr. Caldwell pressed. Well, there was this project, the details are a bit fuzzy, she said, laughing nervously. But the results were excellent. Everyone loved me. My former coworkers, though some were envious, admired my leadership. I suppressed a laugh. She had just bad-mouthed the people who had genuinely supported her in the past. The board exchanged skeptical glances. Her lies were unraveling in real dash time. Ms. Lee leaned forward, voice calm but firm. Sarah, exaggerating your accomplishments and speaking poorly of colleagues doesn't inspire confidence. Can you explain why we should trust your word? Her smile tightened into a grimace. I've always been ambitious, and ambition sometimes makes people misunderstood. I could see her pulse quicken. The charm was gone. Panic replaced it. She had built herself up on arrogance and deceit, and now the structure was collapsing. I reminded myself to stay quiet. Let her fall. I didn't need to humiliate her. She was doing it all on her own. The board asked a few more technical questions. Each answer she gave seemed to contradict the last. Her stories didn't match reality. I noticed the tiny shifts in her posture, the shallow breaths, the way her eyes darted around the room. She was desperate, flailing against her own mistakes. Finally, Mr. Caldwell cleared his throat. Thank you, Sarah. We'll be in touch. She stood quickly, brushing imaginary lint from her jacket. Of course. I appreciate your time. Her voice was tight, strained, no longer confident. As she walked past me, our eyes met briefly. She seemed to register something recognition, perhaps, but it didn't matter. I remained silent, expression neutral. The moment she exited, I leaned back and exhaled slowly. Daniel, who had been standing by the window, raised an eyebrow. "She didn't even notice you were watching, did she?" I shook my head, a quiet smile forming. "No, and she doesn't get it. She destroyed herself. I didn't have to do a thing." Maya, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, added, "Sometimes silence is the loudest form of revenge." "You didn't need to speak or act. You let her unravel naturally." I nodded, feeling a deep calm wash over me. The anger that had consumed me for years began to fade, replaced by clarity. I realized that my life, my work, and my growth were the true measures of success. Watching her stumble, powerless, was just confirmation. Daniel chuckled softly. "You've changed. You don't crave retaliation anymore. You understand what real power is." "Yes," I said quietly. "Real power isn't making her suffer. It's not letting her affect me at all. I've reached a point where her failure doesn't feed my ego, it reinforces my choices." Maya smiled, a gentle reminder of perspective. "And your future isn't tied to her anymore. That chapter is closed." I felt the weight of years lift. The tension in my chest eased. Sarah's arrogance and lies had led her to this outcome. I didn't need to touch a finger. Life had done the work for me. I glanced at the folder I had been pretending to review. In it were resumes, reports, and notes, but none of them mattered compared to the lesson I had just witnessed. Some battles didn't require fighting. Some victories came from restraint. I closed the folder slowly, letting the calm settle in. For the first time in a long time, I felt a profound sense of closure. The anger that had fueled me was now replaced with acceptance, and with that acceptance, the last shadows of Sarah's presence faded from my mind. I leaned back, letting the city lights beyond the glass fill my vision. Silence had indeed spoken louder than words. Karma had done its work. I stepped onto the balcony, the city lights stretching endlessly below. The hum of traffic felt like a distant heartbeat, calming and steady. I inhaled deeply, letting the cool night air fill my lungs. Sarah's laughter was gone, a faint echo that no longer cut into me. It had taken time, but I finally understood. She no longer had power over me. Maya appeared beside me, leaning lightly against the railing. "It feels peaceful up here," she said softly. Her voice a gentle contrast to the chaos I had carried inside me for so long. "It does," I admitted. "I never thought I'd reach this point. After everything, I thought I'd still be angry, still craving some kind of revenge." "You've rebuilt yourself," she said, eyes fixed on the lights. "You didn't just survive, you became stronger. I've watched it, and it's inspiring." I chuckled quietly. I guess it took losing everything to realize what mattered. Jobless, broke, humiliated. I hated that version of me. But I needed to face it to grow. Maya glanced at me, her gaze gentle but probing. "Do you think you're ready to let someone in again?" I hesitated, thinking of the years I had spent in silence, in anger, in rebuilding myself brick by brick. Maybe. I've learned that trust has to be earned, and I've learned to respect myself enough not to give it lightly. She smiled faintly. "That's more than most people ever learn. Most let betrayal define them. You let it forge you." "Exactly," I said, voice low. I realized something. Betrayal can break you, but it can also make you unbreakable. I refused to let Sarah's actions define my worth. We stood in silence for a moment, the city lights reflecting in our eyes. I thought about the long nights, the endless work, the frustration, and the quiet victories that had gone unnoticed. Every setback, every moment of self-doubt had been necessary. "I'm proud of you, Maya," said softly. "Not because of how far you've come, but because of who you've become." Her words struck a chord. I had spent so long seeking external validation, imagining that success or revenge would be enough. Now, I understood that the real victory was internal. I had reclaimed my sense of self. I laughed quietly, sound free of tension. Funny how it all comes down to perspective. I used to think proving her wrong mattered. Now I realize it was never about her. It was about me. Maya reached out, touching my arm gently. "And what about the future? Are you still thinking about her?" I shook my head, a slow, deliberate motion. "No, Sarah is a closed chapter. Her presence doesn't hurt me anymore. I can look forward without shadows trailing me. Good, she said, a soft smile tugging at her lips, because the future can be brighter than the past. I turned to her, letting a small smile escape. Maybe brighter, and maybe shared with someone who matters. She met my gaze, and in that moment, I felt the weight of the years lift. I had built walls around my heart for protection, but now I felt ready. Ready to trust carefully, to love carefully, to live fully without the burden of resentment. The city looks different tonight, Maya said, her voice almost a whisper. It feels like a new beginning. I nodded, letting the lights below mirror the clarity I felt inside. It is a new beginning. I've been given a chance to live for myself, to make choices that matter, and to let go of what no longer serves me. Her hand lingered near mine, a subtle connection that didn't rush or demand. I felt a warmth I hadn't allowed myself to feel in years. The past was behind me. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the anger, all of it had shaped me, but it did not chain me. I turned back to the city, letting the wind brush against my face. I've learned the hardest lesson, I murmured, that power isn't in revenge or anger. Power is in standing tall after the storm, in choosing who I become rather than reacting to who hurt me. Maya's presence was steady, reassuring. And now? Who do you want to be? I smiled quietly, the kind of smile that comes from peace rather than triumph. I want to be someone who values himself, who embraces life fully, and maybe someone who isn't afraid to let love in again. She smiled back, a soft glow in her eyes. Then I think the future's going to be incredible for you. I exhaled, leaning on the railing, gazing at the endless lights. Sarah was gone, her laughter a faint echo, and I had built something bigger than revenge. I had rebuilt myself, for the first time in years. I felt truly free, and with that freedom, I closed the chapter quietly, letting the night carry away the shadows. I had moved on,